Today is the 3rd of April 2025, which means after today, 2 more days left of this financial year. Crucially, that also means 2 days left to use up any remaining personal ISA allowance. I think it does make sense at this moment in time for everybody to ideally do a little bit of an audit. I mean, you could have perfectly allocated your funds and used up your allowance, in which case, well done you. But as for me, I didn't quite have enough money that I could comfortably say, yes, I know that I can invest this much. I know that I have allowance left. What I don't know is exactly how much. So in that case, let's start off by looking at all of the ISAs that I have and then seeing maybe what I can do to get closer to that £20,000 target. So first of all, the main ISA types that people are most likely going to be using would be either a cash ISA, I do not have one of these, stocks and shares ISAs, of which I have a few, so we'll look at them. And I also have a lifetime ISA. So those are the things that I'm going to be double checking. How much have I contributed in this tax year up to this point, and therefore how much do I have left to potentially increase my contributions by? So first of all, we have Vanguard. It's very easy to see how much of your allowance that you have left, and therefore to deduct that from the £20,000 total and to find out how much you've contributed. So I contributed £7,400 to my Vanguard stocks and shares ISA. Next up, we have Trading 212. This one, being that it's held in cash on the account, wasn't the most intuitive way to figure out how much I had contributed. However, I was able to find this, which showed me how much I had paid in, and that totals £5,001. Next up, we have Invest Engine, and I know that I have put in £100 into this account. I did that to ensure that I was eligible for the welcome bonus. And then finally, we have Lifetime ISA, which I am using with Doddle, that is owned by AJ Bell. And again, with this one, it wasn't the most intuitive way to find out how much I had contributed. However, I used their in-app chat function and I had to request a human, and then they were quickly able to advise that I had contributed £1,200 into my lifetime ISA this financial year. So essentially, when we add all of this together, we find that I have contributed £13,701 into my ISA allowance, my personal ISA allowance this tax year. And that leaves me with a remainder of £6,299. Now, I don't expect to be able to reach that number, but I am hoping that I can find some money to allocate at least some of that allowance. And a big reason why I'm doing this is because we actually have a big pot of money coming out of some fixed rate savings. Unfortunately, the timings aren't great because they are coming out in a few weeks' time. And by then, of course, the allowance will have rolled over. So what I'm trying to do here is really maximize my allowance for this tax year in the current moment based on the funds I have available. I actually have just started using a really cool kind of financial app on my phone called MoneyHub, and this has let me incorporate and bring in a lot of my different current accounts and some joint accounts and various different places where my money is held. What it does quickly tell me is the net value of all of these accounts. So if I just quickly run through what I have, like the various accounts, so that you can be in on this information, is that I have a current account with £2,316.30. I then have another account which I put all of my business transactions through, which has £1,261. I have credit cards, one with £213.31 on it and another one with £453. And so essentially this gives me a potential to add £2,851 into my ISAs in some way, shape or form, just to try and push up that usage. For obviously, if you don't use it, you lose it. So that's the whole point of this exercise, is to try not to lose as much of the ISA allowance. What I don't want to do though is just put every single spare penny into the account. So what I'm going to do is give myself a little bit of a cash flow allowance just for this month until we get that fixed rate savings back out. And by the way, the fixed rate savings will be in total between myself and my boyfriend like a big sum of money. I think it's about £43,000. So this is why we're thinking we can probably max out next year's allowance with that. So I've decided I want to leave myself £351 worth of cash flow allowance, and that I think will be adequate to cover off any imminent purchases that I want to make, either for me personally or for the business. And also I've kind of left out the joint account that we put all of our monthly recurring bills through. And so from a household perspective, I know all of our bills have been accurately budgeted for, and we also have the funds available to cover all of those bills. So that's all fine. It's just what excess money did I have that had kind of built up in my other accounts, and that is what I'm talking about using. So essentially, if I give myself that cash flow allowance of £351, then it leaves me with a nice round 2,500 to allocate into, or to use up towards my ISA allowance. So the next question that I have to answer is, where do I want to put this money? And for me, I at the moment do not want to really properly invest this money. So I'm not going to be using my Vanguard stocks and shares or my Invest Engine stocks and shares. Rather, what I've decided to do is put it into my Trading 212 stocks and shares ISA, because that account is quite unique in that I can invest in fairly low risk money market funds and I can still get a decent 4.6% interest rate. Now, I did consider cash ISAs for that added security, but I couldn't really find anything that was going to be competitive in terms of the interest rate, and also factoring in the time and annoyance that it would be to create yet another account. So what I've decided to do is to put £2,500 into my Trading 212 stocks and shares ISA. So what I might do is I'll just record a screen grab of me doing this and I will overlay it into the video. But essentially our thought process with this is that we have a fair bit of money in the stock market, which can be relatively volatile. Now, that is absolutely fine for all of the money that we want to keep invested in the long term. And I'm saying ideally 5 or even 10 years plus, which I think that money that we have there currently, that is totally fine. But something that we are thinking about doing, which may or may not pan out in the near future, is to build a house. And let's be honest, if we are going to go that route, we're going to need available funds. And so the easiest compromise I can see with putting it into this ISA right now and holding it as cash is that if for whatever reason we need that money to go towards something such as building a house, then we can do so without being overly worried that the valuation could be on a downward or could be lower than ideal. So essentially that's what I'm going to do. If the requirement to have that cash then does not come to fruition in the next couple of years, I can always just then easily and seamlessly invest that money. We've got the added benefit then of it being within an ISA wrapper, which means no capital gains, no tax at all to be paid on that money. So then to summarize, and now that that has been done, now that I have added an extra £2,500 into my stocks and shares ISA, I can say that the revised total unused allowance for this year for me personally is £3,799, which I think is pretty good going. Since I quit my job, I have a lot less money coming in. I really honestly didn't think I would be anywhere close to get into the 20,000, and okay, I haven't been able to hit that this year, but I'm still pretty proud of just being able to put in what I have done. So one thing I would say is obviously you do not want to make snap judgments when it comes to big amounts of money. And I have been ruminating on this for some time. I've been thinking, oh, I think I do want to put a little bit more in. And, you know, the reason why I hadn't been investing consistently was because I did not know what was going to happen. But we are where we are. I know that we're going to be getting that additional money come through from the fixed rate savings rather soon. All of the positive talk on the channel about investing and using our ISAs really got me pumped to just make sure that I am personally maximising that allowance and doing what I can. So even if that does not mean putting it straight into the S&P 500 or US equity or even globally diverse funds, just having it in that wrapper could be useful for the future, and I could always swap and change where that money is held. So for me, this is a good way of just offsetting again that risk element in case I want to use that money, and not wasting my personal allowance and doing everything I can. I think it's important to obviously acknowledge that a lot of us do not have £20,000 every single year to max out this allowance, but you know, that doesn't mean that it's not worth putting whatever else you feel comfortable putting into the wrapper. But yeah, I thought I would share this little mini saga. You now officially have 48 hours to do your mini ISA allowance audit. So I would love to hear in the comments below whether or not you guys have looked at your allowance. If you made any last minute changes, let me know, and I'll see you in the next one.